New York City. 39% Democrats. That's very low for New York City. In Manhattan, 70% Democrats. So it was already a somewhat biased question to a group of people. And 90 people said they would move out of the 1,000. And then what pollsters do is they take and they manipulate these numbers and they come up with a formula, and they said, okay, it was something like 765,000 people were going to move based on this poll. And then all of a sudden it became 1 million. So that's where that came from. And it's created a lot of pandemonium. I was at the forum today, and it sounded like it was just gonna be crazy. Like, I mean, the way everybody was talking about it. So I think a lot's to be seen. And Alicia?
So I have to say, I was at the economic forum today, and a lot of New Yorkers were there, and a lot of them have already moved. But what they didn't say is, we're closing our companies. You know, Jamie Dimon didn't say, I'm shuttering up my building because all the New Yorkers are moving. You know, exactly. And Ken Griffin didn't say, I'm taking all my people and, you know, we're moving them all. But it is interesting, they had already moved. So I think that I'm not going to tell you that we're happy about the election, we're extremely concerned, but they're not betting against New York. So I needed to say that because I know it's been so heartfelt. And since I have the mic, I'm also going to say, City National, you guys are still here, I hope. Because today, in a moment of great pride for us, we had Jamie Dimon speaking, you know, JP Morgan Chase, blah, blah, blah. But who was interviewing him? George Gonzalez, our very own. And he did an incredible job. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful exchange. So kudos to him. I think that while there's tribulation, these huge business minds are not packing up and moving their companies. They're there, they're vested, they're committed, and I think there's just real concern on how does this tide turn, and how does New York recover and come back from this bigger and better like we all want it to.
Next slide, please. Okay, so we already kind of covered the media exaggeration. We can go to the next slide. And I explained this. So just also a little context, 420,000 people left New York after COVID. And a lot went to Texas, a lot came here. But I don't think this is gonna be COVID, but yes, people will still come. Next slide, please. So I have had some conversations in the last 2 days, yesterday and the day before, with an executive director of private wealth at JP Morgan, the Rockefeller Group Family Office, the head of that office, and also Citizens Private Bank. And this is pretty much what New Yorkers are saying, right? Like nobody's panicking, nobody's making rushed moves. They're focusing on their planning and their diversification. They are cautious, but they are curious, and they want to see how it's going to play out. So the main reason, like, why a lot of people want to be in Florida is the lifestyle, the tax, and the regulatory factors. And that doesn't change, and that is always going to be attractive to New Yorkers who get tired of paying a lot of taxes. So, you know, the moves are going to be strategic and gradual. It's not going to be abrupt. And as you know, a lot of people go back and forth. So there's going to be that dual presence. Next slide, please. And then just a little bit about what's going on in our market from a sales perspective. So inventory levels are slightly lower than they were last year. And we are in a restricted inventory environment. So you can see regular seasonality that goes up May, June, and then it starts coming down in July. If there was a big bump, people being worried after the primary, you would have seen more listings come on. So steady market and tight inventory. Next slide, please. And then in the last 2 months, if you just look at the fall season, so year over year, we sold just about $3.9 billion in the last 2 months, and 1689 transactions. That's about 3% higher than it was last year. So a healthy market still. I think what we'll see is that if you do start seeing more inventory, you'll see some prices come down and some good opportunities. Next slide, please. And, you know, the other elements of our market that support our market is our very low vacancy rate. We have the lowest in the country. 2/3 of luxury sales in Q3 were all cash. 50% of our sales are all cash. And we are in the top 3 luxury markets for above 10 million. Next slide, please. And just about 10,000 closings annually in Manhattan. That is what we had in 2024. It's a $20 billion a year market. Next slide, please. And we can go to the next. I kind of touched on this. So kind of the basic fundamentals, and I have to say, like, New York is an old city that's been established for a very long time. It's been a financial center for a very long time. So you can't compare our market with Miami. And I want to say our market because I was here for 13 years, so this place is near and dear.
That's interesting, right? Because when we were in New York doing this, Heather very graciously looked at our presentation, and we were taking a different approach. We were doing kind of, these are the Miami stats and these are the New York's. And the New York stats are so enormous that our stats look like ridiculous. All this stuff that we're so proud of, oh, we have so many companies, we have so many, and she's just going, she looks at me, she said, that would just be mean, Alicia. You know, so I'm not going to do that. I said, okay, don't do that, because it's such a powerful economy. I mean, any way you slice it. And as I look at this, and you know, for anybody who knows me, you know that from the day one, I said, I do not want this guy to win. I do not want him to be a realtor. I want him to go away and take AOC with him and sail and tell, and we never want to see him again. So, you know, I was like campaigning when I was up there, you know? So that's how I feel about it. But having been through the Miami markets and how many cycles they are, I do think that we're going to see a lot of opportunity for people who have always wanted to have a place in New York, who have felt like New York got away from them. And I do think that you're going to have tremendous opportunity in New York because you're going to have areas where the prices are going to go down. And I think you're going to come out of it because you guys are just going to come out of it. And so I think there's going to be opportunities in both directions. But one of the things that we want to focus on today is how do we create those bridges? And when I was up in New York, I had a property registered. We've since, thank you Michael, wherever you are, have another 3 properties registered, which you can offer up to your friends and colleagues in New York. And I think you're going to see more of that because there is a feeling in Miami that there are going to be a lot of New Yorkers. And I believe that's true whether they come to Miami or somewhere else. I also think that they may not sell their properties in New York, they may rent them to other New Yorkers. And what happened to us after 2008-9 when, you know, I had the poster child for the debacle, it was like on the front page of, you know, the New York Times or something, I remember seeing that, is that the city got cheaper, which meant young people moved in, and, you know, now they weren't driving for 4 hours, so they basically thought they had died and gone to Miami heaven. And once they moved here, and they were locals, by the way, which I think you may see some of that too, they weren't leaving. They just figured it out. And then it created this whole, I don't know, rejuvenation and excitement in our downtown and our Brickell area. And out of that, I think, came some great stuff, some great energy, a whole new generation of buyers. It actually changed what our market looked like because our rental market was really the shadow market of condos. And because those renters moved in and they said, we are never moving out. Every time one of them came up for sale, they bought them. And so then it created this big construction of rental buildings. And so we have to figure out how to make the money flow. And we can talk to that, but that was one of the things that the businessmen in the room, all men still because were very concerned about that. Because, you know, when you have Jamie Dimon saying, you know, we just can't lend, the numbers don't work, and you have Whitcock saying, the numbers don't work, we can't build, and it just went on, Ken Griffin's, all of these people kind of know what they're talking about. So how do you think you solve that?
Well, actually, two points I want to raise, building on what you said. First, how do you sort of leverage, everyone's a real estate professional in the room, with your clients, you might call the Mamdani trade, is that now is probably the best time to be buying in New York as an investor because you get the benefit on both ends. One, you get the better price discovery, and second, you get the rental appreciation. If you buy the thesis that rents are going to continue going up because of a shortage of supply, vacancy is at 1.4% in the residential market right now, you can actually make the argument that now's the time to buy, invest, and rent out the unit because you get the better price and then you get the higher rents going forward. And I actually just did that with the client downtown who was in from Los Angeles who did just that. That's point one. Point two, to your point about urban regeneration, I don't know if this is actually right out of Jane Jacobs' theory about urban planning that you just referenced. So I don't know if anyone's read Death and Life of American Cities. If not, I would recommend the book, which was written in the 1960s, but it's all about how cities are like organisms that will find ways to regenerate and grow, and that there's this sort of creative destruction that does happen, and if you're not paying attention, you miss it, and all of a sudden a new neighborhood becomes hot and emerges because artists move there, or younger people move there, and then the restaurants come, and the nightlife comes. Yeah, exactly. Wynwoods are perfect. What was Wynwood like in 2012, right? I mean, it's very different. So these are how cities, you have to think about cities as living organisms. And that's what that book's about.
So a lot of the rest of the presentation, which I think is probably best to send to you all, is just talks about us being a global center and the culture and like all these great things. I mean, you can go to the next slide. Next slide, please. So 4 million workers, 60 plus hospitals, 120 plus universities, and 25,000 startups. The tech, next slide please. The tech industry is valued at 147 billion in New York.
I mean, the numbers are staggering.
It is surreal.
I mean, it's too big to fail. We're counting on that.
For sure. And honestly, you know, I think what Jason said about the rents, because the rental market has gone bonkers since COVID, it's unattainable, right? Like every time I go to price a rental, I end up being wrong because that rental market's moving so fast at such a higher pace that I have owners getting numbers that are just, I feel like I'm robbing somebody. So it's pretty crazy, but there is opportunity to buy, and I have 2 listings coming on. We're gonna sell them with tenants in place, and that's gonna, you know, we're in a market where that's attractive. We were not in a market where that was attractive for many years. Okay, so next slide, please. Lifestyle, culture. I mean, listen, I had a closing today, and this client was out with me on June 21st, the day of the primary. It was 104 degrees in New York, and they were gonna leave for a vacation. Yeah, nice Tuesday in Miami. And see, we saw 7 properties. He says, okay, I wanna put some offers in. I think I wanna do 3. I'm gonna write to you from the plane. I'll send you the offers, and we'll see where this all flushes out. That night, Domi wins. I didn't hear from them on their vacation. So he let it settle a little bit. They came back, and we hit the pavement back in August, and they just closed today. And, you know, he was asking, because I called him and congratulated him, and I wasn't there, so he was asking what I was doing. And he's like, we're the perfect example. We're a great case study. We're moving from Westchester, we're empty nesters, and these neighborhoods in New York have so much life and so much vibe to just offer and take in, and that's why we're back. So it is pretty interesting, especially to see young couple, not young, but I mean my age really, but people who have empty nesters that maybe had kids a little bit younger and they wanna really experience New York because they didn't get to live their life, they maybe had kids young. We're gonna see a lot of that. Because of the culture, because of the restaurants, and everything else, the shopping. Next slide, please. So this is kind of the map of the neighborhoods and just the fact that how distinct and unique every single neighborhood in New York is. Next slide, please. We have over 70 Michelin star restaurants. We have over Only 70. We have about 23,000 restaurants, so I mean, you can turn the corner and eat at a different place every single day and still not put a dent in it. Next slide, please. And so, just winding this down, the global demand, the diversity of the housing stock. One thing that's interesting about the housing stock, co-op, condo, townhouses, you've probably heard about co-ops. When Lehman Brothers crashed and everybody was doing short sales, bankruptcies, all of that, we had a foreclosure rate that was still below 1 or 2% because of the co-ops. The co-ops require sometimes 100% cash, 50% cash, most of them, and then, when you get to the fringes and stuff, they start loosening up their restrictions. But when you have that much equity, you're not having the foreclosures, and that's what's held our market up. So as much of a pain in the ass these co-ops are, they have maintained the stability of the housing market in New York. And that's not going anywhere. We're like 70% co-op. Even though we could have lots of new condos being built all the time, it's 70% co-op. So that's not going to change. Next slide, please. Our resiliency, our rental market, all these things we talked about. Next slide, please. And then never bet against New York. We've always come back stronger. So, we thank you for being here, and I have to share that what it takes to build referral partners in another market is really putting yourself out there and making the relationships. I've done a lot of that over the years, and I have different agents and partners that I like to refer to. Miami is so spread out. I have 4 or 5 different agents that I love working with down here because they cover different areas, and also you've got different personalities and different people, and somebody might be right for one and not another. So knowing those people in those markets, in the secondary markets where your clients are going, Aspen, a lot of people from here going to Aspen, Vail, there are Tennessee and the Carolinas you have people going to. So, making those relationships and efforts, if you're with a firm that has affiliates in other markets, if not, tap into things like Master Brokers Forum, and you just maintain the relationship. And the last 2.5 years, I've really focused on that, and about 40% of my business is referrals from agents coming in and going out.
Great, and you're so collaborative, because Heather and I have stayed in touch, because every time I go to New York, and she was doing condo sales for a long time, she would just open the doors and greet me and give me the information. So I'm going to put out an ask to everybody here. Let's try something different. I would give it 2 weeks to settle, but in 2 weeks, when things have settled, send an e-blast to your entire database. Are you thinking about New York? Have you ever wanted to have a place in New York? Wouldn't it be interesting to explore New York now? Because the worst thing that could happen is crickets. If you get a no, that's really a maybe, because they're answering you. And if you get a yes, you're off to the races. So I would really ask you guys, just take a minute and do that, because why not? And then I know there's people from New York here, and I'm sorry, but I was in the back. Who's here from New York? Okay, stand up below. Stand up, have everybody take a look at you. So here are your New York partners. They've come all the way here. And how many people in this room have been to New York in the last year? Raise your hand. Okay, this is it. We go all the time. So. Totally. So when you put that ask out and say, hey, because we have to work from a place of honesty, then a week later, you send that same message to all of the NYRAC members, because I think we can get that list, and say, I just reached out to my entire database and asked them if they were interested in New York. Do you have a property or two that you would like me to feature that maybe I can follow up with? And by the way, if you have anyone that's thinking about Miami, call me, and would you like to feature some of my properties? Let's do this. There's a unique opportunity here. It's rare when two independent organizations, because how many different real estate companies are represented here? I don't know, but maybe Jason or Dan or somebody knows, but a lot. And NYRAC is the same thing. So this is not company-centric, this is industry-centric. This is an opportunity for all of us here to try something different and make some money, and I think we will. But remember, it's always good to give before you ask for a gift. So if you put it out there and then you reach out, I think some magic can happen.
Any questions? No? Yeah.
You mentioned something about inventory, supply restrictions. Can you hear me? Stand up. You mentioned something about inventory, supply restriction in New York. Can you elaborate on what you meant by that?
Sure, yes, we are at all-time lows as far as our inventory. So I have a stable of buyers I cannot find stuff for. And when you have submarkets within submarkets within submarkets, which is what we have, right? Because every neighborhood has every single range of price points, so it niches down. You don't have much options when you have that buyer. So it's hard. You have to try and find and create opportunities looking at listings that expired. It is hard to make deals when you don't have inventory. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I thought when you said restriction, I thought like actual.
Oh, restriction. Yeah.
Well, so the one restriction that's a real problem in the city right now is a tax program called the 485X, which basically limits new construction to 99 units per building. And when they go over 99 units, there's additional fees and expenses that the developers have to pay. So over the last year, if you look at New York and all the projects that have rolled out, magically, amazingly, they're all at 99 units, so they're under the cap. The problem with that is it was done, there was an old tax program called 421A, which phased out, and this was the compromise solution that came about last year. The problem is when you're in a tight supply market and you're trying to create more housing, this actually does the opposite because there's opportunity cost on all of those sites. You know, in New York, you can build 300-400 unit buildings, no problem. But now those units that would have been, those buildings that would have been 400 units are now 99. So now you're creating a further future deficit in your housing stock. So one of the things we're trying to work on in this legislative session come January in Albany, which will be 4 degrees, by the way, so thank you. But we're trying to change the policy to remove the cap at 99 units because it's working counter to our goals in the city.
In the last 10 years, the new developments that have been built, what percentage are condos versus condos?
They're all condos unless it's on a land lease property, which we've only seen maybe a couple of those. And then it's a condo. So you own shares in a corporation like a co-op, but it's condo rules. So no new development would be co-op, be condo.
All right, there was 99 unit buildings. Are these buildings much larger units? Or, if they can build 300 of the same site, and now they're only building 99, are they massive units?
No, the height is, they're not going fully up. Yeah, in most cases.
And they sell the air rights to somebody else?
No, the problem is you have to, selling the air rights to another site has to be within the local community board, and it's complicated to do so. It's potentially, though, yes. There was just a zoning reform called the City of Yes, which made it a little easier to do some of that work.
Just curious, is Jersey City a new booming new borough of New York?
Jersey City is booming, and so is Hoboken. So when all the hipsters went out to Williamsburg and made Brooklyn is more expensive than buying on a lot of the Upper East Side now. So if you saw the Wall Street Journal article a couple weeks ago where the Upper East Side is now cool again, that's why, because people were paying more money to live in Brooklyn, having to commute, bridge and tunnel, and it's just, so they're going to the Upper East Side. Now, Jersey City, all the young professionals who would have maybe gone to Williamsburg but are priced out of there started going to Jersey City, and developers started going and developing there as well. So we're starting to see a lot more projects, and it's becoming a kind of its own little hip place to live.
And by the way, one of the reasons for that is the mass transit hub in New York. If a lot of you have been there, you know that the subway and train system is very extensive. It's something that I hope that Miami does in the future as they think of ways to move more and more people that are going to be coming here much more efficiently than currently it's set up.
To that end, I don't know about the rest of you, but I was so worried about the New York election that I forgot we had an election in Miami. I completely forgot. I mean, completely forgot. Yeah, totally. I totally forgot. So we do have an election in Miami. We have a runoff, two very, very different candidates. What day is the runoff? Does anybody know? Okay. Tuesday, December 9th. So it's, okay, somebody correct me here, City of Miami, right? Which means Brickell, Coconut Grove. If you don't have your own mayor in your own city, and it's, unless it's unincorporated Dayton, they don't vote. So City of Miami, we need to focus. We do not, no offense, want to be New York 2.0. And the candidates are very different. So we need to focus on this. And I honestly forgot. So don't anybody tell me I don't love New York.
Anyone else?
What a fantastic evening. And when you have a beautiful night like this, you've got a brilliant people to thank, so brace yourself. Thank you, Heather, Jason, Alicia, for that incredible, insightful discussion. Thank you to everybody from NYRAC who made the trip from New York, everyone, sponsors, members. We really do appreciate you schlepping all this way. Michael, we really appreciate you keeping us out of trouble. Thank you so much for your brilliance and time and expertise, and especially our friends from City National Bank in the back corner there. Guys, we love you guys. We are so grateful for your partnership and everything that makes it possible. Please make sure you do two things.